So by using AI-generated images, some reflections from informal experiments. Why I'm talking about informal experiments? Because I am going to show you some um, experiments that people, maybe sometimes it's three of the four experiments that we are going to see are done by journalists or people like that, blog uh, sites in the web, and it's not academic research, okay? So this is important to think it, because sometimes we can find that some of the expressions are not so academic, but I think that this is close to the things that are coming to the mind to the people in general. So I will go directly to the theme, the subject of today, because Fatima made a really good presentation of my career, and you know who I am right now and what I've been doing before as a professional career. In animation and in design, in illustration, in all the creative industries, people is really concerned with the AI generative, because as you know, these tools are providing people in general with something that until now it was something that people have to make a lot of effort and study a lot to be able to develop an own style or to create images that, especially for example in 3D animation, to make some images with a realistic look, you need decades of work and practice. And right now with AI, you can just say what you want, and in seconds, the image is created. So this has been a big change in the summer of 2022, because that is when OpenAI launched, for example, GPT in November. But before that, because everybody's talking about ChatGPT, but you know that before the launching of ChatGPT, there was some more other new tools like Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, or DALI, that are AI generative from the type text to image. These kind of projects, these kind of tools, it's like they work like magic. You say your spell in natural language. You don't need to learn code or special words to work with them. And in some seconds, your thoughts are revealed in images with really high quality most of the times. And even there were not only these three, Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, and DALI are the most known tools, but there are a lot more that are fulfilling the web with images, because you can access them for free. So these new tools in the blog are having that huge impact in the cultural and creative industries, because there are a lot of issues. For example, issues related with copyright. The authors whose work has been used to train the AI without consent, and they are receiving nothing in return. And now people can make in seconds images like, for example, with the style of a known illustrator in seconds. People without any kind of knowledge can do these images. And In some cases, our understanding of what is creativity, something that was so human, is about to change, or maybe not. We will maybe this in the future, but by the moment, we are in the way we produce images is changing to a co-creative process between humans and AI. So professionals, researchers, and millions of users are trying to test these powerful tools, trying the capabilities, asking AI to create the most unusual, all kind of outputs. People is learning how to control the results, checking how quickly the render is improving in resolution, in accuracy, in photorealism. As you can see in the screen, in 2016, the image that DALI, the OpenAI text-to-image generator, created this kind of blurred images without any resolution for sentence, a herd of elephants flying in the blue skies. And right now, you can see how in 2022, the resolution was higher, like a taxidermic it looked like for the elephants, but taking into account that it was done in seconds, it's like huge. And I was curious, how will DALI make this herd of elephants in the sky right now in 2024? And I asked ChatGPT, which uses DALI 3, version 3, and the evolution it was not, in this case, not so impressive as with other models. Midjourney, for example, you can see in this image how the improvement of the quality and photorealism you can see from version 1 to version 6 in just 1 year and a half. But not everything is realism, photorealism. Take for a minute the image. I asked a herd of elephants flying in the blue skies, and ChatGPT answered, "Here is the image you requested, a group of elephants flying majestically through a blue sky full of clouds." So when I say majestically, and why clouds, I say flying in the blue skies. So it's important to understand that AI brings to the outputs in the creative process something that the operator, the person who asked the prompt, didn't literally express. For example, you can see this other image created with AI. This one, I didn't create it. The prompt was something that similar to two fluffy felines engaged in an intense chess match, each with a determined look on their face. Okay, so who decided the color of the cats? Or who decided where the focus? You can see something is on focus and something is blurred in the image. And which is the cat that is playing with the white pieces and which is the one with the black pieces? You can see the pieces are all brown. It's like not a really good presentation of chess play, but you can see there are a lot of decisions that are not in the prompt and the AI is bringing in the picture. All these images with all this information that has not been solicited are in the web, in social media, for millions and millions and millions of images right now. Most of the time, these creative decisions of the AI will be harmless, but what if the AI shows a tendency to display prejudices, biases, or harmful stereotypes? That's my concern. So this is the subject of today. The aim of this STEP BIP session is to promote reflection on bias in generative text-to-image models by analyzing several experiments that show a worrying tendency to produce general gender bias racial stereotypes and cultural reductionism from neutral prompts. And then we can discuss the implications. The first study is Barbies of the World. Barbies of every country, an article by BuzzFeed in July 2023. They were curious how will the AI think Barbies will look like in different countries around the world. So the article is not available anymore because they deleted it after the intense social media backlash. No? But we can still find some example of the posts that people were claiming about this. No? For example, a girl said that the Vietnamese Barbie was wearing incorrect cultural outfits. She said that is not a Vietnamese traditional clothing and that the collar it was in a reverse position, which symbolizes death in her culture. Another girl saw that all the East Asian Barbies were like white girls in a yellow face. Another said that the German Barbie looked like a SS Nazi general, and that say they really need to stop dumping AI-generated content without reviewing it. Another girl, this called Fatma, said that the Barbies from United Arab Emirates, from Qatar, from Kuwait, Saudi, they were wearing incorrect cultural outfits as well. For example, this Barbie is wearing a traditional headdress for men. And many other aspects that made people angry, like this TikToker that pointed out why Barbie Kuwait wears two purses. Is she always shopping or what? And she was focusing that they were all blonde Barbies with blue or green eyes. Lebanon Barbie standing among the debris. And this was shocking. They gave South Sudan Barbie a gun. And this TikToker, Erika J, said, does BuzzFeed not have editors? The real racism is them actually publishing this. And I realized that under South Sudan Barbie, the next one was Spain. And I had very difficulties to find Spaniard Barbie, the Spanish one. And when I find it, it didn't fit my expectations because I was expecting a flamenco dress Barbie fighting a bull or something, or something with a more Hispanic look, like Latin American look, because when I asked Leonardo AI, it's another model, Barbie from Spain, what the model bring to me was this Barbie, like when she's wearing something that looks like more Venezuelan or Mexican maybe, and the suggested prompt that Leonardo gave to me to have a better result was Spanish flamenco outfit. So this is a complete stereotype from Spanish culture. Spanish are 17 autonomic regions, and sometimes the outfits, traditional outfits, are really, really different. For example, in the north, we don't have this kind of flamenco customs at all. This Spanish Barbie was blonde, and nothing to do with Julio Romero de Torres, the painter who painted the classical Spanish woman in the past. But as you can see, the background, it will be perfectly at street of Madrid, and the outfit reminds me to a kimono because of these sleeves, but it's nothing really bad. In Latin American Barbies, you can see that they are their skin is really light. Probably no one is aware of the Barbie from Cuba that has 3 arms because she looks like a pin-up girl from the 50s in the American culture, and with a sexualized look. And Venezuela is surrounded with products. We don't know what does it mean. And of course, US Barbie is wearing the national flag, as every US woman does every. So, some thoughts and questions arising from this study, this phrase, first study. What is the problem with women wearing men's clothes? The essence of being a woman doesn't lie in how she dress. Do women have to wear pink dresses, to wear makeup and high heels, as the stereotypical Barbie does? I don't think so, but maybe there are another things that we will have to check in profoundly. No? And another thing, what is the essence of a Barbie? A Barbie is about being skinny, being blonde, being blue-eyed, and with the form fit to wear high heels. Why is her essence supposed to be removed when the AI generates images of a Barbie? So maybe in this example, it will be how if the AI needs to render a cat, what is the essence of a cat? Always, not all cats will be represented in one image of a cat. So this bias has to be is going to be always in any generation of an images. So case study does. This is much more interesting and it's not so informal, this experiment. Humans are biased. Generative AI is even worse. In this study, made by a leader in business and financial information, Bloomberg, in June of 2023, they were inspired by a research paper, Gender Shades, from MIT researchers. And they analyzed 5,000 images created with stable diffusion with this kind of prompts: a color photograph of an engineer, for example, headshot, high quality. And they selected 14 occupations, well-paid and low-paid jobs as well. And they tested as well criminalized categories like inmate, terrorist, and drug dealer. I said not so informal because they use a methodological approach, really interesting. For example, they calculated the average faces of the results for the 300 images that created for every prompt. And with this average face, they categorized the results of color of skin with, for example, the Fitzpatrick skin scale that is used from dermatologists. In the results, they found that stable diffusion takes racial and gender disparities to extremes worse than those found in the real world. Images generated for high-paying jobs showed people with lighter skin tones, and prompts like fast food worker or social worker generated subjects with darker skin tones. When they considered gender, most occupations in the dataset were dominated by men, except for low-paying jobs like housekeeper and cashier, which were depicted by women. Take a look. Engineer, like most of them, just 98% were men, just 1% were women, and 1% ambiguous, indeterminate. So, with this average face technique, they not only make the average color, they were able to realize that for stable diffusion, 13 jobs belong to specific groups of people. As you can see, in the high-paying occupations, they are all men, they all have white skin. In the low-paying occupations, there are images that you can say a housekeeper looks like an Asian person, she's a female, And for example, fast food worker, I couldn't say if it's a he or she, and it corresponds with the results of the study. No? A lot of viewers, a lot of 50% of men and women. But as you can see, there is something very clear here. And the results compared with the US Bureau of Labor Statistics show that stable diffusion underrepresents women in high-paying occupations or positions of power and overrepresented them in low-paying occupations. For example, 34% of US jobs are women, and for stable diffusion, just 3%. This is another curious case. When they asked, for example, a portrait of a terrorist, the system, Stable Diffusion, gave a lot of images, all men, and with characteristics, physical characteristics that are related with custom and hair that were usually were for Muslim men, with no correspondence at all with statistics. As you can see, here is more clear. The results were extremely stereotyped. If you think that Stable Diffusion gets the raw data from Lion 5B, the world's largest open accessible image test pairs dataset, and this dataset includes a lot of problematic and offensive images, all these models are using all these images on the dataset, and there is a concern when these images are used, then these models to create, for example, forensic sketches of crime suspects. If it tends to stereotype, is not a good way. And for example, next generation text-to-image models could become much more biased because right now the web and the media is full of this content that has been generated with nowadays models that are biased and amplify stereotypes. So, thoughts about this second study? Who bears the responsibility? Is the dataset providers? Is the model trainers or the creators that will be the first one to censor the results? Because we have to remember that people learn from seeing or not seeing themselves, that maybe they belong or not, being reflected in images. Okay. The third study is one of my favorites. They did Rest of the World was the authors. It's a non-profit publication focused on citizens' experiences with technology, taking into account other realities beyond Western point of view. This article is from 2023. They were inspired from the previous one, and they analyzed 3,000 images. They were focused on generic concepts like a person, a woman, a house, a street, a plate of food, combined with 6 different countries: China, India, Indonesia, Mexico, Nigeria, and USA. So an Indian person, a house in Mexico, things like that. They generated 100 images for each prompt, and the results show that the AI system, in this case was Midjourney, has tendencies toward bias, stereotypes, and reductionism when it comes to national identities. For example, showing for an Indian person something like a spiritual guru with judgment excessive and atypical, because it's right, 80% of population in India is Hinduism, but they are not all gurus, and the 14% of Muslims are not represented. In the 100 images, there were just 1 woman and 2 Native American men, and all the rest, as you can see, are all gurus. So we can think about this, that the marketing and advertising industries have been making a big effort to represent different groups of people in the advertising. And there is still much progress to be made, but if people start to work with these tools, they are used carelessly, generative AI could represent a step backwards in this. In this case, there's in Nigeria images that they don't show the different language cultures that are in a Nigerian person. No? It's like a generalized. This is, for me, more clear. A Mexican person, 99% of the occasion is a man with a sombrero. An American person, all 100 images were created with a flag. None of the other countries created a flag at all. And the general case was that always were more men than women represented, but not in the USA, the American person prompt. Just 5 men, and the rest were women, and one strange masked individual. And the possible explanation that they say about this overrepresentation of women in this data could be because there are a lot of images of women, American women in the web, and maybe there are cultural differences that in other cultures women are not don't allow their images to appear on the internet. Maybe it's an explanation. I don't know. And what they look in the results was concerning, because it was promoting sometimes an impossible and restrictive Western beauty standard. For example, for several countries, the skin tone was for women was at least 2 levels lighter in the Fitzpatrick scale than for person. So this Western-centric beauty making much more pressure on women than men, because they found things like the look of Chinese women, mostly depicted with the double eyelids, with Western look, no? And for example, men were almost always over 60, and women were between 18 and 40, younger and beauty. Images of houses and streets, they found stereotypes as well. For example, New Delhi images were always so with pollution and trashy streets, and they say that probably the most obviously offensive results were for Nigeria, when the houses look run down with peeling paint, broken materials. And, we come to our beliefs about what is true, what is real, based on what we see. Images can have a profound effect on how we perceive the world and the people in it, especially when it comes to cultures that we haven't experienced ourselves. I have never been in Delhi or Nigeria, so no idea how a Nigerian house will look like. So I searched on Google, and this was a Nigerian house. The result was these big houses and rich houses. But if you can see, they have a look like they are 3D created. It's not real houses, not all of them. And then I changed the search, a house in Nigeria, and the first result was this real estate company with these houses that apparently has nothing to do with what Midjourney was creating. Well, in a plate of food, a lot of things as well that are not accurate in cultural symbols and things like that. Well, we can think about this and ask ourselves, is it possible to create an accurate representation of a complex culture in just one image? Every result will be always biased. There is always partiality and a specific vision of the whole. And think about how should be an appropriate representation of your country. I think it's really difficult, no, to decide this. But the real problem is representational harms when certain social groups are diminished and when the images are perpetuating existing inequalities or amplifying harm and stereotypes. And the last one, this is very quick. These researchers, they made a small experiment reproducing on how AI image generators show biases against women in STEM. As you can see, there is a woman wearing a hat from men here. I didn't realize if I didn't show the previous, the first example, because I'm not an specialist in clothes from Middle West. So, well, this last experiment was done with DALI and Stable Diffusion. And they wanted to, they asked for visual representation of the words engineer, scientist, mathematician, or IT expert to see if and how women was represented. And they found that 70 to 10% of AI-generated images showed men, reinforcing stereotypes of STEM professionals as male-dominated field. AI can have a negative impact on women's recruitment, retention, and advancement opportunities in STEM fields because even if it's only images, they can discourage women from seeing themselves as engineers, mathematicians, and scientists. So, some final reflections. Bias in generative AI is a problem that urgently needs to be solved. AI tools are built to identify patterns in the training data to generate results aligned with dominant trends, which replicates what already exists. This is the way to get the result, and when you ask for a cat, it gives you a cat and not another animal. So this kind of bias is a necessity, but sometimes it will don't foster diversity and not always fair. Should AI be trained to reproduce social reality as it is, with its inequalities, or should it be trained to depict an ideal egalitarian society free of stereotypes? Some solutions: mitigate by prompting. If we know that neutral prompts produce biased results, for example, this image is very hard. Black African doctor helping poor and sick white children. And you can see that even the prompt is very specific. The result is biased. So the way in which AI systems have been trained not only reproduce bias and harmful stereotypes present in the training data set, but also amplifies them. We can sometimes mitigate it by prompt engineering, but creating a literal prompt. This leads to the question that it's needed a more transparency from the companies, which tend to be secretive about the content of the data sets and how the systems have been trained. AI must be developed and trained by a diverse and inclusive team to ensure that different perspectives are considered and represented. These are some of the recommendations of report on systematic prejudices that UNESCO has recently published. And models should be tested before they made public. OpenAI was aware of this problem before opening DALI to the general public, and they have made some attempts to address bias, but it's not quick and easy. So again, transparency is crucial, and there is a need for independent research for continuous monitoring and evaluating the results of AI models. Researchers in many different fields are being very productive in this regard. And I want to finish with a call for effort in this to all the for all the community of researchers, no? Because as Daniel Kahneman, Nobel Prize in Economic Science, a specialist in bias, he said, "What can be done about biases?" And the answer is that we can achieve little without considerable effort. So I think we have a lot of work to do in the future. And I guess these examples make us thought about the consequences of this tendency of AI models open to the public in general, who is creating a lot of harmful images, stereotypes, and which are the consequences. So thank you, all of you, for your time.